Okay, so we stopped on that America began to bomb Tokyo every night. It was basically not only here's a great example of what some of the bombing looked like. Not only was it a destruction type of reason for bombing Tokyo every night, but also to try to break the morale of the Japanese people to realize that we were closing in. 83,000 Japanese were killed in the bombings of Tokyo, but still it didn't seem to have an effect on their overall commitment to fight. So let's take a look a little bit at the advancement towards that. So if we look at 1943, we really start pushing back here. Remember um, we have a couple big battles in this area: 1942, 1943, Guadalcanal, um, the Gilbert Islands. One of the main ones here was the Battle of Midway. This is about the extent of the Japanese control in 1942. So you can see here's where the Japanese controlled in 1942, and in 1944, this is where they controlled, which you can see we've taken a lot. It looks like just a lot of ocean there, but these islands are pretty important. The island of Guam, we're coming back, pushing back towards that area that we had previously lost, the Solomon Islands, coming up here and pushing back along the New Guinea and up close to the Philippines, so we hadn't taken the Philippines yet. In 1944, we're going to actually begin to push back beyond this little piece here. 1945, we're also going to start putting people in from the Soviet. What we had asked the Soviet Union to do was to begin to push back in Manchuria. So once they had conquered Germany, the Soviet Union began to invade up here in Manchuria with our help. Now you can also see Hiroshima and Nagasaki where they're going to have the atomic bombs dropped. But you're also going to have Tokyo here being bombed, um, primarily from the Mariana Islands. Science and technology were an important piece of winning the war. Everything from aircrafts to ships to weapons. The biggest one was the Manhattan Project. It had been started under FDR. The idea was very expensive, but they felt like if we could do this, we could possibly win the war in one sweep. Oppenheimer and Groves were in charge of the project. Here's an example of them here. Some of the main areas where we have uh, pieces of it are it shows a couple different things here. They all had their own project name. They had different like Project Y. Some of the main ones were Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge was and Morgantown was another big one too. Um, so it wasn't all in just in one area. It was in different parts of that. The idea was to take two. If we could take little atoms and bring them together. Why couldn't we take a big atom and be able to break it apart to cause an even bigger bang? We look at this. We have 10 million pints of blood that went into dried blood plasma to treat wounded soldiers. We developed jet engines. The use of nylon. We still use nylon today, especially used in parachutes at this time. Now used in clothes today. Development of radar. We started out this unit talking about radar. Penicillin, definitely a big impact on saving people's lives, especially if you consider the Civil War era. And then code breakers and calculating machines to help solve some of those coded messages. Truman had to make a decision. He had to decide whether we were going to invade Japan or use something that had never been used before and possibly bring the world into a different era. Truman's decision was based on the invasion of Japan would cost 1 million American lives. It's not even including the amount of Japanese that would have possibly died. Based on the amount of Americans that would die, Truman made a decision that he was going to use the atomic bomb. August 6, 1945, we dropped the first bomb on Hiroshima. It killed 60,000. On August 9th, 3 days later, 1945, we dropped our second atomic bomb on Nagasaki, which killed 35,000. We only had three of them. We actually had a test bomb, and then we had two of them. We were developing our fourth and fifth, but we didn't actually have them developed. We told Japan we did have one, though. And Japan was believed us enough to decide to surrender. USS Missouri is where they signed their surrender. The Emperor of Japan got on the radio and told every Japanese man and women to lay down their weapons, and they did.